Hey, we got sound now. How's that? Ha 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 ha. Good evening, and welcome to 5 A Day with Jay. I'm your host, JR Murdock. We're starting this all over again because I'm a dumb and forgot to turn on the microphone. Still learning all this stuff. Still learning. 157 episodes, and we're still learning and still making mistakes. That's what's so much fun about all this. Where was I? I guess I need to start over, don't I? I'm a child of the 70s. I was born in 69, therefore I grew up as a kid in the 70s. As a kid in the 70s, there were many flamboyant figures, but other than cartoons, not a lot for kids to follow. One flamboyant figure that stood out from my childhood was Evel Knievel. Evel Knievel liked to hop on his motorcycle and jump over things. It's what he did. It's what made him famous. He broke all the bones in his body multiple times because he would crash. Little side note, Evel Knievel actually got his nickname along with his buddy Knaufel. I had a friend that went to high school with the two of them. My buddy was older than I was, but it was Knievel and Knaufel, and the teacher said, "Oh my gosh, there go Evel Knievel and Awful Knaufel." Just a little side note for your time. At any rate, as a kid, an impressionable young child, these things stuck in my brain. So I remember being somewhere around 4, maybe 5 years old and having a big wheel. Remember the big wheel? You got the handlebars way up here, you got the big front tire, you got the little back tires, and you got the brakes so you can slide. I remember, I must have been 4 years old. I was real little. And would take this big wheel, get pedaling as fast as I could, and go over the speed bumps that were in the apartment complex we lived in at the time. You know, you jump over things. It's what you do. You get going fast. Woo! It was exciting. When my mom got remarried and we moved up to McGregor, Minnesota, we, of course, got bigger bikes as we got older. Once I got my training wheels off, because I was not coordinated in any shape or form or fashion, and at one point I had one training wheel because I always, would get nervous and have that to balance on. I got lots of bike riding stories that I'll tell eventually. At any rate, once the training wheels were off, the area we grew up in McGregor, there weren't many paved roads, especially not where I lived. Most of the roads weren't paved. Therefore, it would rain. You'd get lots of dips and puddles. What do you do when you're on a bicycle and you start pedaling fast? Whoosh, you jump the mud puddle. You ride through the mud puddle, jump out the other end. As we got a little bit older, things progressed. And eventually we found a 2x6 or 2x8, I forget what it was. We propped that up on a cinder block. Boom. Little ramp. Hey, it was fun. We progressed things even further to where we found a sheet of plywood, and I forget what we braced it with, but we found something to prop up that piece of plywood on the end of a dock. And we rode our bikes down a hill, up the dock, off the ramp, into the lake. You've seen videos of people doing stupid things like this before. Of course, me being the scaredy cat that I was, I would watch everyone else do it, and I would well, I'm not going to go that fast. So pedal, clunk, flop, fall into the water. That's how these things go. We built all kinds of ramps growing up, and we rode our bikes over them. In the wintertime, you didn't ride your bikes anywhere because there was nowhere to ride a bike. Near our home, there was a hill. That hill, you could go sledding down. The right conditions, you can get going pretty fast. There was a trail in the woods. It had a turn. So you'd go down, 90-degree turn to the left, 90-degree turn to the right, and then you continue on. At one point, a tree during the summer had fallen across that trail. We didn't know about it, but we knew where the trail was. You could see the line through the trees. We get going through the trees. Boom, boom. Hey, there's a jump in the middle of our trail going down the hill. You would lose all momentum. Half the time you'd go flying off into the woods, into the trees. You'd crash, you'd go into a bush. It was funny. Let's fast forward a little bit to one of the most extreme jumps we ever did. I had two friends in the area. I'm not going to use last names when I tell these stories to protect people, but Dan and Jody were two kids that they weren't always there, but they were nearby. When I say I grew up and I had one friend when I was growing up, that one friend was there year round. The rest were, they'd come up from the cities, or they'd go back to the cities, or they'd move away for a time and come back for a time. But at this point in time, near my house, Dan and Jody were there, and they both had older brothers. I don't remember Dan's older brother, but Jody's older brother was Tony. I had an older stepbrother that was Tony's age, named Doug. And my stepbrother Doug and Tony and my brother, Jody, Dan's older brother, all of us worked on Dan's house to clear the snow from the roads. Snowplows couldn't always get through, so they would have the kids over, have a hot dish. I grew up in Minnesota. We had hot dishes. It'd be something with tuna, something with hamburger and tater tots. Who knows what it would be? But we would the mom would cook a hot dish. We'd come over. We would shovel the road, and you'd have to do something with this snow. Well, the road that we cleared went all the way down, much like the trail by our house. Went down a hill, left-hand turn, right-hand turn, and you were down to the lake. During the summer, it would be a boat ramp. That boat ramp had a little area where there was an island out, not an island, but like a peninsula. So when you launched your boat, you were in a secure area, and then you would roll out into the lake. Well, that specific area during the winter months, snowmobiles would go down there. And that's how they would get to the lake, would be down that road. So we cleared the road, but we couldn't just leave it there. We were kids with ambition and dreams and Evel Knievel as a hero. We took some of that snow and we made a bank hey, if we get a sled, we can bank that left-hand turn. Yeah, this would be great. And then we banked the right-hand turn. This is going to be awesome. And at the bottom of that hill, we put a ramp. A ramp about 3 feet high. Now, we decided early, okay, let's try this out first and see how well it works. So we would start at the small part after the second turn and just go down, off the ramp. Lake is covered in ice, no problem there. It's covered in about 1.5 feet, 2 feet of snow. You just land in the snow like a big cushion. It was awesome. So we decided after a few trips, I, of course, am the nervous little kid. I'm the youngest one there out of all of them. All of them are taking their turns going by themselves. We're at the top of the hill, and I'm just watching them zip down. You can see from where you stood, you could see to the second corner, but you couldn't see all the way down to the bottom of the hill. I don't know what the distance was, but I know it was a good distance, and you got moving. All of my friends, Dan and Jody, both went by themselves. My brother went by himself. All the older brothers went by themselves. And everyone kept, come on, Jay, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to go. And I'm like, no, I'm scared. No, I can't do this. No, I'm not going to do it. By this time, a couple of them had walked down to the bottom of the hill because they wanted to see what would happen when somebody went off this jump. Because everyone would take the jump and no one would believe them how far they went, even when they saw the impression where they landed. Okay, my brother Doug is like, come on, Jay, I will hold you. You got to try this. It is so much fun. I pull my hat down over my face, completely cover my face. I'm not going to watch this. And I'm like, let's go, but I don't want to see it happen. The sled we had, there were different types of sleds at the time. Obviously, you had the ones with the runners. not the type of sled we had. That would have been far too expensive. You had the cheap plastic round ones. Obviously, you can't control your direction with one of those. You had the straight, hard plastic ones that were almost like a bowl you could lay down in. Those were good as well. The one that we had was just a long sheet of plastic with the two handles in the front that you pull up. Slippery as can be. Doug sits me in front of him, pulls it back. I'm holding on just to the little piece. Got my face covered, got my mittens on. I'm wearing my snowmobile suit. Have you seen A Christmas Story? That's how I'm padded. I'm padded up like that kid. We start going down the hill. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, I can feel the first corner. And I'm like, oh my gosh. You can feel every little bump because the plastic was not that thick. So every bump on the road, you felt every little bump. We're going down the road. Oh, I can feel the second one. And now I can just feel the wind through my hat that's pulled down over my face. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we are moving. I can still feel Doug's arms on the sides of me. We hit the ramp. And I just remember this feeling of flying through the air. And I mean flying through the air. And I just hear, oh my God, and just laughter. And all of the boys just laughing their heads off, going, I can't believe it. I'm still flying through the air. And whew, I crash into the snow. Now I say I crash into the snow. The sled didn't crash into the snow. My stepbrother did not crash into the snow. I crashed into the snow. Why? Because when we hit that ramp, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the number of times we went over it, it got rough, the sled ripped out of his hands. And he went ass over tea kettle and fell in front of the ramp and tumbled. And I shot forward like a rocket off of the end of that ramp. Whew. Alone. I'm so glad I had my face covered. I got up and I looked behind me. And like I said, this was a good size inlet. The inlet during the winter, we would shovel it out. And Dan and Jody would go out there and they would take buckets of hot water and they would make an ice rink, a hockey rink. Not a full-size regulation hockey rink, but enough size to make a hockey rink. At that time, it was still covered with snow because we wanted a landing area. So when I shot, I almost landed on the other side of that inlet. So when I get up, I'm struggling. I'm in snow. My stepbrother is just booking it across. Oh my God, are you all right? Oh my God. And he helps me up. And I take the thing off my face. And like I said, when I turn around and I realized, wait a second, I almost went all the way across. And that's why all of them were laughing so hard. They're like, dude, you just shot off of that like a rocket. And it was, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it myself. It's one of those things. I'm sure I was smaller and the distance wasn't as big as I think it was because I was, half the size I am now. But I went a pretty good distance. Obviously, no way to measure this, no way to pace it off. We were just having a good time. And everybody's like, oh my God, you got to do that again. And I'm like, no, I don't. I did it once. No, I'm never doing that again. That was more than enough. I'm done. I'm not going to do that. Because the more I realized how far I went, the more nervous I got about ever doing that again. Thankfully, I was wearing, probably a t-shirt, a sweater, a jacket, a snowmobile suit, gloves, mittens, hats, boots, everything. I was well padded. And like I said, when we took off and landed, we landed in about 1.5 feet, probably 2 feet of snow. There was no chance of me ever getting hurt unless I landed on something like a rock or a stick or something that might have been out there. But it was all ice and snow. It was a bizarre thing. But it's one of those things that it just sticks with you over the years. And I always wondered, Exactly how far did I fly? How fast were we moving? These are the type of things that we did as a kid, and we didn't consider safety as an option. We didn't think about, oh my gosh, we could get hurt, we could break something. You just got up and you just went for it. Like I said, I was always a scaredy cat. I had to be pushed into it or have somebody help me do it. I was rarely did anything on my own like that. But hey, that's what happens when you watch Evil Knievel as a kid and you're like, I can do that. I can do that. I know I can do that. Anyway, it's been 5 a day with Jay.